Our chosen skill is the basketball jump shot. We chose this skill as we felt it was going to be challenging for both the two learners, Alex and Ben, who have had minimal experience with basketball. The jump shot is a key skill to the game which allows for a degree of improvement and variation within our training program. A jump shot is classified as a discrete skill as there is a distinct beginning and end. It also is classified as a gross motor skill as it requires large muscles of the body to operate in order to complete the skill effectively. The learners for this particular program will be exposed to both open and closed environments throughout the 5 weeks. As the learners develop their skills, the environment will change in order to further develop understanding of this skill. Regulatory conditions such as court size, height of the ring, and size of the basketball could directly affect the outcome, although all of these elements will remain the same over the 5-week period. Our training program is distributed over 5 weeks and will run twice a week for 45 minutes.
Week 1 commenced with a demonstration of proper shooting technique from the coach. Emphasis was placed highly on 4 key aspects of the skill: balance, eyes, elbow, and follow through, which was placed into an acronym BEEF. This was used constantly throughout the 5-week program. This simple drill of shooting the ball into the air was a way for the learners to get a feel for the action and to practice proper technique.
Jump around, jump around, jump up and get down.
For the first 2 weeks of training, we focused primarily on the technique of shooting without the inclusion of the jump. We did this as the jump adds more complexity and could therefore hinder learning in the early stages of training.
In week 2, we focused more on the accuracy of shots. In this particular drill, the learner used proper shooting technique and aimed to get the bounce as close to the line as possible. In the next session, we incorporated the ring to gradually increase the complexity of the skill.
In this drill, we did one-handed shots to focus predominantly on follow-through, flicking the wrist, and minimal use of the support hand.
Jump up and get down. Jump, 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 jump.
Next progression was bringing in the other hand, now knowing that it is there for support and balance.
In week 3, we included the jump into our shot. In this simple drill, learners incorporated the jump into their shot without a basketball in order to simplify the action.
Next, we incorporated the ball and the basketball ring. This week included more in-depth feedback due to the increased difficulty of the skill. For example, bending knees to generate force behind the jump shot, increasing elevation, accuracy of timing, and landing patterns.
Session 2, we added a stationary defender to further increase difficulty, and as a result, increase contextual interference, which interrupts cognitive thought processes. In the next stage, we added a moving defender.
Week 4, we increased task complexity by adding in additional parts of the skill. This involved the learner running to the sideline and back before receiving a pass and completing a jump shot. As a result of this, the learner had to focus on not just the jump shot, but also where the pass was coming from, feet positioning, landing patterns, and also fatigue levels.
Either work hard or you might as well quit. That's word because you know you can't touch this. You can't touch this.
This drill was a more randomised practice. The learner followed the coach around the key at various positions to shoot a jump shot. The learner wasn't sure where the position would be, therefore adding complexity, while also having to chase down the rebound and reposition.
Week 5 applied more of a competitive nature. Both the learners had a ring each and tried to hit as many jump shots in 1 minute. This drill added more of a pressured situation and related more to a game situation.
touch this. Look, man, you can't touch this. You better get a height, boy, because you know you can't touch this.
In this drill, learners were required to shoot longer range shots to push them further out of their comfort zones. This was able to show if they could apply the same technique in a more advanced situation.
Stop. Hammer time. You can't touch this.
A pre-test was administered before any training had taken place. Learners had to shoot from 4 different positions while shooting 5 times at each position. Results were recorded and this would be used as our quantitative data. The same test was utilised at the beginning of each week to be able to identify whether any learning had taken place. Results over the 5-week program were graphed and are as follows. This graph shows the results of our quantitative analysis. On the x-axis, we can see weeks 1 to 5, and on the y-axis, we can see successful shots made. As you can see, both learners increased from weeks 1 to 5, showing an improvement in their shooting abilities. Week 5 shows results of the post-test. Both learners received the highest amount of successful shots, which definitely ended our program on a positive note. This table represents the qualitative data over the last 3 weeks of the program. We did not use this measure over the first 2 weeks, as we felt that learning the skill beforehand was a lot more beneficial than being critiqued on these elements straight away. The data shows how weak or strong a certain part of the skill was, and now gives a good indication of how well both Ben and Alex developed their skills. We felt that the qualitative analysis showed a lot more than the quantitative analysis. These results focus on the quality of the skill and looks deeper into the movement, not just the outcome. For Ben, he had some trouble keeping his elbow at a 90-degree angle, whilst Alex lacked in the follow-through category. With that being said, majority of scores were either a 4 or 5 in the final week. A retention test was administered after the program was completed to determine whether learning had taken place. Learners defended each other whilst performing a jump shot. Both learners fell under some pressure, although they both managed to keep the 4 main aspects of the jump shot throughout this test.
Learning the jump shot was a great experience for me as I've never properly learnt it before. The pre-test showed that my old technique was poor as I only scored 6 out of 20 shots. By breaking down the skill and being taught with demonstrations step by step how to perform it with good technique was beneficial to me as I'm more of a visual learner. I found it easy to learn the jump shot but would definitely need more practice to critique it. I felt over the 5 weeks of training I've become more confident in my shots and was able to judge my distances a lot better. Previously, I always struggled with shooting from the 3-point line because my technique was poor, which stopped me from shooting accurate from longer distances. As the training progressed, I got better and was able to shoot threes more often. Meg was able to introduce me to the beef technique, which incorporates balance, eyes, elbow, and follow through. Verbal cues such as beef before or after my shot reminded me to think about the 4 main points of the technique. The reinforcement of this made learning a lot easier as it was broken down into a simplified form. By the end I was able to shoot a goal comfortably and with good technique. I was very happy with the result and I'm now more interested in basketball and want to further my skills in the sport. Meg's teaching was great, everything she explained was clear and easy, she made it such a fun and easy learning experience and I feel I've come a long way and learnt more skills.
For the 5-week training program, I would throw and toss the ball and it was very rare that I would get a goal. I had no previous experience in basketball and the jump shot, so in the beginning I struggled to understand the training cues. However, once I got a grasp of the concepts, it became much easier and I quickly improved. I found the use of the cues very useful as they fixed up my form and technique whenever it became sloppy. My wrist lapsed the most, but for example, the cue hand in the cookie jar really reinforced and reminded me to flick my wrists. The training program slowly progressed, which was very beneficial for me as I was new to the skill and couldn't take in too much information at once. In weeks 4 and 5, I struggled with the progression of contextual interference being added as there were more distractions making it harder to focus on technique and cues. Overall, I really enjoyed the experience. I was genuinely excited being able to shoot goals with so much more ease and to have actually learned something because I doubted myself before the training. The positive feedback from Meg also benefited me because it made me proud and more determined knowing that I had impressed someone with a lot of skill in the basketball jump shot.
As the coach, I thoroughly enjoyed guiding Alex and Ben throughout the program. Personally, I found it difficult to remain the coach and not jump in on the action, although with that being said, it was still a great experience sitting back and being able to see the improvement amongst them both. I felt that the sequential nature of the program worked well as it gave Alex and Ben the space to be able to improve and learn important aspects each week. As a coach, I struggled with limiting my feedback as the weeks progressed. At the beginning of the program, I gave a lot of feedback and verbal cues such as hand in the cookie jar to emphasize certain parts of the shot, and I really tried to decrease the amount I was giving each week. I didn't want the learners to become reliant on constant feedback, and after time I adapted to this mode of teaching and let the learners go about their business. Ultimately, this program taught me a lot about adapting training programs and teaching novice shooters. It was a pleasure to watch Alex and Ben improve over the 5 weeks. They did a fantastic job of paying attention to specific cues and definitely showed just how much someone can improve in 5 short weeks of training.